Should I push for sole custody? Hi, I'm Bill Farias, founder of Farias Family Law. We got this question a couple of weeks ago from a lady who is moving toward divorce. She has 2 young children and she's torn between wanting to have them as much as possible post-divorce, but also acknowledging that their dad is a good dad and she wants the father as involved as possible also because it's in the children's best interest. So she's trying to figure out what the best arrangement is going forward. And this is the question that came up. Should I push for sole custody or should I try to work out a shared custody arrangement? The best way to think about this is to first of all recognize that there are actually 2 different types of custody in Massachusetts. There is legal custody and there is also physical custody. Legal custody is about which parent makes the major decisions for the child: healthcare, schooling, religion. And legal custody is usually shared unless there is a serious issue with one of the parents or one of the parents was not involved for a significant period of time. The court wants as much as possible to have both parents involved in the decision making. So for legal custody, whether you should push for sole legal custody really depends on whether you think the other parent is capable of effectively participating in the major decisions. So some of you might say, well, we don't really get along. I don't get along with my ex that well, so I think this is going to be a problem. But the court, even when people have some difficulty in communicating, is inclined to try shared legal custody. Now, certainly if it's at a point where the lack of communication or the animosity is going to negatively impact the child in terms of the parents not being able to work out these decisions, then the court will certainly consider sole legal custody. But the default is usually shared legal, and again, that's because the court wants both parents involved. So whether you should push for sole legal custody really depends on what's going on with the other parent, what the other parent's involvement has been. But certainly whenever possible, you want to try to involve the other parent in major decisions because it's in the child's best interest generally to have 2 parents involved. Of course, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes there is an issue with the other parent that's so serious or hinders the parent's ability to effectively participate in these types of decisions that it's not a good idea. But you want to think about whether the other parent can effectively communicate with you to make these decisions. Physical custody is about where the child lives. So that can fall on a spectrum anywhere from sole physical custody, which is one parent has the child the majority of the time, to shared physical custody, which is about 50-50, and there is everything in between. So to figure out a good physical custody arrangement or a parenting arrangement, the court's going to look at a number of different factors. Where is the child tied to in terms of geography? How bonded is the child with each parent? Are there other family members in the area? What other connections does the child have to the areas where the mother and the father are living? And a number of other factors. So in figuring out whether you should go for sole physical custody, you should really ask yourself what is in the child's best interest. You want to be careful not to focus solely on the finances. And people tend to do that. People moving away from a marriage are concerned about the amount of money that they'll have available. And so some people will say, I want sole physical custody, but it's really because they want the child support, right? Because usually if one parent has sole physical custody, the other parent is paying child support. You do not want to focus mainly on the finances. You want to reverse engineer this, and you want to think about what's best for the child first, and then plug that in. And once you figure out what the best arrangement is for the child in terms of how much time the child will be spending at each household and for what periods of time, then you figure out based on that arrangement what the child support calculation should be. You should not be doing it backwards and trying to fit a square peg into a round hole just to optimize your finances. Certainly money is important, but the child's best interest is the number one concern in divorce, and so you want to make sure you approach it from that framework and that viewpoint of doing what's best for the child and then figuring out the finances. So what you should push for in terms of a parenting arrangement really depends on your specific circumstances. How bonded is the child to the other parent? How willing is the other parent to do the parenting work and take on the parenting responsibilities for the periods of time you're thinking the child will be there? How far apart do you live, right? Because the closer you live to the other parent, the more sense it makes to do a shared custody arrangement, because there is necessarily more back and forth in most cases. So if the parents live far apart, it's going to be harder to have more exchanges, especially during the week. So these are all things that you should consider. Number one is the child's best interest. For both legal and physical custody, do what's best for the child. If you have any other questions about this, you can call us at 508-675-0464. You can email us at info@fariasfamilylaw.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Farias Family Law. And if you found this video helpful, you can subscribe to our channel and share it with anyone you think might benefit from it. Thank you. Have a good day.